Dear viewers and listeners, welcome to in this video. Now we are going to discuss about imperialism in India. With the Mughal empire significantly weakened, the French established trading cities along the Indian coasts during the 18th century, but the British East India Company had pushed them out by the early 18th century. The British were still following the model of government support for private companies that they had used in colonizing North America during the 19th century. The company forced the Mughal to recognize company rule first over Bengal, and when the old Mughal empire was defeated in the 18th century by the Iranian armies, the British pushed for economic control over more and more areas. Again, India fell into the familiar pattern of decentralized independent states ruled by Nawabs, native princes who had nominally supported the Mughal emperors, and the company made agreement with them that they were economically advantageous to the British. The British Raj 1818-1857 was under company rule for almost 40 years, but they were not actually a British colony during that time because the British East India Company was still private, even though the British government supported it. However, the company administered governmental affairs and initiated social reforms that reflected British rules. At the same time, they depended on the Nawab to support them, and so they also had to abide by the Indian customs and rules as well. The contradictory rules they played eventually erupted in the Sipahi Revolution of the 1857. The Sipahi were Indian Muslims and Hindus who served the British as soldiers in the army that defended the subcontinent. The revolution took the British by surprise, but they found out that the Indian fury could be traced to a new training technique that the soldiers refused to follow. It requires them to put a bullet shell in their mouth that had been greased in either pork or beef fat, with the pork fat being highly offensive to the Muslims and the beef to the Hindus. So there is a request to the new viewers, please like and subscribe to my channel. The British changed the practice, but it was too late because nationalism has reached in India and a movement for a country based on Indian identity was beginning. The leader of the movement would have to wait about 90 years to fulfill their dreams. British rule 1857-1947, the Sipahi Revolution showed the British government how serious the problem in India were, and they reached by removing the British East India Company from control and declaring India as a British colony. British officials poured into India to keep control of its valuable raw material for industry and trade, particularly cotton and poppies for affium. They expanded production, built factories in India, and constructed huge railroad and irrigation and telegraph systems. So nationalism during the imperialism. While growing industrialization and British-controlled trade, a middle class of Indian officials and managers began to rise during the late 18th century. By and large, the British did not allow Indians to own companies or to hold top government positions, but they did not provide education for people to fill the professional jobs. Some Indians went to England for higher education, where they absorbed Western political values of liberty, equality, and justice, and they began to apply those values to their own situations. For example, the Brahmo Samaj movement advocated unity for Indians by combining traditional and modern ways. The Indian National Congress was formed in 1885 with the goals of promoting political unity and appointing more Indians into higher positions in the British civil service. The Congress was controlled by Hindus, and in 1906 another nationalist group was established for Muslims called the All India Muslim League. Despite tension between them, by 1914 both groups were demanding Indian independence from British. Were the British merely exploiting Indians for profit, or were they trying to do the right thing for India? Certainly the profit motive was strong, especially apparent in the takeover in the early years by the British East India Company, a profit-driven company. However, many British people of that time insisted that a major goal for the government was to improve Indian life through the modernization of their country. Perhaps the most famous defense for British motives was the white man burden, a poem that the vision of the British world leadership idealistically improving the lives of the people in the areas they dominated. Of course, the Indian National Congress and All India Muslim League did not agree. So, I hope you get something new from my video. Please like and subscribe it. Best of luck.